When my mom, a youngin, her and her mother lived in a trailer in the backyard of a family member's house. My mom was about 12 at the time that the man in the neighboring house started to stare at her from time to time. She got a creepy vibe from him, but figured it was just a harmless, lonely guy. One night, when my mom was alone, she heard something on the roof of their trailer. Then she heard what sounded like footsteps slowly walking along the metal rooftop. Given they were dirt poor at the time, they did not have a phone. So she eventually ran out of the trailer and into the house without looking on the roof. When our uncle went outside to investigate, nothing was on the roof. A few weeks went by with no incidents, and my mom figured she must been overly scared of nothing. More fucked up stuff would randomly happen, but only when she was alone. And it was always spaced out a week or two. If I remember correctly, this occurred over maybe a couple months before it stopped completely. Months go by without any weird instances at all. Until one night my mom wakes up to the trailer unbelievably hot. She could feel the heater on full blast. She got out of the bed and was about to go to the control for the trailer's heater. But she was overcome with a bad feeling and decided to just go into the house. The uncle went out to the trailer and noticed that the lock on the door was broken or messed with, and he looked inside quickly but didn't see anything. His wife made him call the police. When they came out, they searched the trailer and found one of the kitchen knives behind a chair next to the heating controller. They suspected that the neighbor went into the trailer, turned the heat up, and crouched behind the chair, waiting for my mom to come by. And then, who knows? It's been a long time since I heard the story, but from what I remember, the cops questioned the neighbor but really couldn't do anything about it. Luckily, my mom and grandmother were able to move out of that town right after that. My mom told me that about 5 or something years later, she was visiting other family who lived in a nearby town and saw the neighbor at the grocery store, and she bolted out before he saw her. When I was 6, my mom and dad took me and my younger sister to a MLB game, leaving my grandmother to babysit my youngest sister. When we got back, my grandmother told my folks that 2 guys had come by the house with photography equipment and asked whether a young girl with red curly hair lived here. and that they had spotted her, and that she would be a great child model for some advertising work they were doing. When my grandmother said she wasn't home, they said they would come back another time. My grandmother and mom didn't think much about it, but my dad said, "Something's not right here," and called the police. About 15 minutes later, several FBI agents showed up and began conducting interviews with my grandmother and my parents while I ran around and showed the agents my matchbox police helicopter. Turns out we had been targeted by a child theft ring. The photographs would take a bunch of photos and wait until the toddler threw a tantrum, and the photographers would then ask the mother to go grab a toy to keep the child entertained. While the mother was out of the room, they would grab the child and bolt, leaving everything else behind. The FBI told my folks that my sister had already been sold and would have been out of the country within 24 hours if they got her. We were advised to change preschools and other aspects of our daily routines. It still gives me the chills to think about what could have happened to her. Needless to say, Mom became pretty overprotective. It was few years before she even trusted us with a babysitter. A young boy is sleeping in his bed on a usual night. He hears footsteps outside his door and peeks out of his eyes to see what is happening. His door swings open quietly to reveal a murderer carrying the corpses of his parents. After silently propping them up on a chair, he writes something on the wall in the blood of the dead bodies. He then hides under the child's bed. The child is scared beyond belief. He can't read the writing on the wall, and he knows the man is under his bed. Like any other child, he pretends that he slept through the whole thing and hasn't awakened yet. He lays still as the bodies, quietly hearing the breaths from under his bed. An hour passes, and his eyes are adjusting more and more to the darkness. He tries to make out the words, but it's a struggle. He gasps when he finally makes out the sentence. "I know you are awake." He feels something shift underneath his bed,